Part 1, expanded, 700 words. The first cold winds of the season came earlier than anyone expected that year. They rolled across the desert like long, icy fingers, slipping down into the valley where Elena Whitlock's ranch sat alone, too alone, she often thought, against the wide stretch of land her husband once called their kingdom. Now, without him, the place felt more like a hollow shell echoing with memories she tried not to open. 2 years had passed since sickness carried him away, but grief had a strange way of surviving droughts, storms, even time itself. Every morning Elena woke to silence. Every evening she lit the lantern by the window, not because she needed the light, but because it made the house feel less abandoned. Sometimes she wondered if she kept it burning for him, or simply for herself. The ranch needed more hands than she had. Fences sagged, horses wandered where they shouldn't, and the vegetable patch had surrendered months ago. She worked until her fingers blistered and her back ached, yet the land seemed to absorb her effort without giving anything back. She'd grown used to hardship, it was loneliness that pressed on her most. Then came the thunder of hooves. It was dusk, the horizon bleeding orange into purple, when Elena stepped outside with a rifle balanced in her arms. Out here, a lone woman couldn't afford to trust the sound of a rider approaching. The hoofbeats slowed, stopped, and a shape emerged from the settling dust, enormous, dark, unmistakable. Taza, the giant Apache warrior she hadn't seen in years. Back when her husband, Matthew, was alive, the Apache tribe often traded horses and crafted goods with local settlers. Taza had come with them, but Elena remembered him as silent, intimidating, and impossibly strong, a man who spoke little and watched much. She never expected to see him again. But now he dismounted with a certainty that made her pulse quicken, not in fear, but in something far more confusing. Elena Whitlock, he greeted, voice deep and steady as if her name was carved into rock. You recognized me. She lowered the rifle slowly. Hard not to. You're difficult to forget. He gave the faintest hint of a smile, but it faded quickly as he scanned the ranch with a warrior's eyes. His gaze lingered on the broken fence, the empty barns, the unlit rooms behind her. What brings you here? She asked, trying to sound stronger than she felt. Tracks, he answered. Men moving near your property. Too many. Too close. A chill unrelated to winter crawled up her spine. She'd heard rumors of outlaws drifting through the region, taking advantage of the thinning law presence. But she hadn't known they were watching her land. I've seen no one, she whispered. They watch at night. Taza stepped closer, lowering his voice. You are alone. They know it. Her breath tightened. The lantern inside suddenly felt like a pathetic line of defense. Taza inspected the yard the way one would inspect a battlefield, calm, methodical, calculating. He walked the perimeter, tested the fence with one large hand, examined the hoofprints near the barn. Everything about him radiated strength and confidence, as if danger itself would retreat at the sound of his footsteps. Elena followed at a distance, unable to ignore how much larger he seemed than she remembered, broad shoulders, thick braids resting against a chest shaped by years of survival and war. But what unsettled her even more was the way he moved with purpose, as though he had come not simply to warn her, but to stay. When he finally turned to face her, the dying sunlight caught his eyes, dark, serious, heavy with something she couldn't name. You should not face winter alone, he said. She opened her mouth to protest, to remind him she'd managed 2 winters already, to insist she was fine. But before she could form even a single word, he stepped closer, close enough that the warmth of him cut through the cold wind like a shield. Part 2, expanded, 700 words. Elena spent the next several days trying, and failing, to make sense of Taza's vow. It echoed in her mind at the most inconvenient moments, while she carried buckets from the well, while she swept the porch, even while she tried to sleep. The giant Apache hadn't repeated the words once, but their weight filled the air every time she sensed him nearby. He came at sunrise and stayed until the moon lifted over the ranch. He repaired what she couldn't, brought food when her pantry grew thin, sharpened her tools, and made sure no unwelcome riders came too close. He worked with the quiet focus of a man who believed this was his responsibility. Elena didn't know how to feel. Part of her wanted to tell him his vow was too bold, too sudden, too impossible. But another part, the part she barely admitted existed, felt a warmth she hadn't known in years. A warmth that had nothing to do with safety and everything to do with the way his deep voice softened when he spoke to her, or how he always kept a respectful distance unless danger drew him close. One afternoon she found him in the barn, replacing a broken beam. She watched from the doorway as he lifted it alone, something that would have taken two men struggling, and secured it as if it weighed nothing. His effortless strength stirred something inside her she had tried to bury long ago. When he noticed her, he set the hammer down. "You do not have to hide at the door," he said, not turning his head but knowing exactly where she stood. "You may speak." She stepped inside, forcing her voice to stay steady. "You can't stay here every day. Your tribe needs you." "My tribe sent me," he replied simply. "I told them a woman alone was being hunted. They agreed I should watch over you." Her chest tightened. "I don't want to be a burden." "You are not," she swallowed. "And your vow, what did you mean by it?" Taza finally turned toward her. His expression wasn't fierce or demanding. It was steady, earnest. "You were living here like a dying fire," he said. "Cold, unprotected, alone. A family brings warmth. A child brings purpose. A son carries legacy." He paused, then added carefully, "But a vow is not a command. It is an offering." The words struck deeper than she expected. He wasn't trying to claim her. He was trying to save her, from loneliness, from danger, from a life drained dry by grief. Before she could answer, thunder cracked across the sky. A storm rolled in fast, too fast, and wind beat at the windows of the house. She hurried inside to secure the shutters. Taza followed, checking every door and window with swift, controlled movements. By nightfall, rain lashed the ranch in hard, wild sheets. The roof rattled. The lanterns shook on their hooks. Elena awoke to a soft creaking sound near her window, heart pounding. She reached for the rifle under her bed, but Taza was already there, standing between her and the glass, body tense, face shadowed but alert. "What's happening?" she whispered. He motioned her to stay quiet. A faint tapping, metal on wood, came from outside. Someone was probing the window. The riders. Her blood turned to ice. Taza leaned close, voice barely audible through the storm. "There are three." "How do you know?" "I hear them breathing." Elena nearly dropped the rifle. His senses were sharper than any man she'd ever known. After a moment, the tapping stopped. The riders moved away, but not far. Taza watched until even he could no longer hear them. "Elena," he said firmly, "you cannot stay here. They will return." Fear squeezed her chest. "This is my home, and it will still be here," he replied. "But you will not be safe until they are dealt with." He stepped closer, not threatening, not invasive, but steady and protective. He smelled of rain, cedar, and smoke. She felt a shiver, not of fear, but of something dangerously close to longing. Part 3, expanded, 700 words. The Apache settlement lay high in the cliffs, where winter sun touched the stone first and snow arrived last. Elena had expected the place to feel foreign, but instead it felt alive. Children ran between the lodges with laughter bright enough to warm the air, women tended fires and stirred fragrant pots, elders sat beneath awnings weaving baskets and telling stories older than the desert itself. For the first time in years, she wasn't surrounded by silence. Taza introduced her to everyone with a quiet pride that made heat rise to her cheeks. The tribe welcomed her with nods, warm gazes, even gentle touches on her shoulder. No one treated her like an outsider. No one questioned why Taza, a warrior known for his seriousness and solitude, had brought a widow from the valley to live among them. Life fell into a rhythm. Elena helped grind maize with the women, learned to make fry bread, helped the children with sewing, and tended to the fires during cold evenings. The simple tasks soothed something inside her that had been knotted for too long. Here, people lived as one. Here, she mattered. But it was Taza who truly changed everything. He never left her side for long. He checked her shelter before nightfall, made sure she had warm blankets, brought her food before she asked, and taught her how to walk safely on icy cliff trails. When he spoke to her, his voice softened, something she noticed no matter how hard she tried not to. And every time she caught him watching her from a distance, there was a look in his eyes that made her heart beat faster. Respect, admiration, and something deeper. One night, snow fell thick across the cliffs, muffling the world into quiet. Elena sat by the fire outside her lodge, watching the flakes settle on the ground like feathers. The tribe had already gone to rest. Only she and Taza remained awake. He approached silently, though a man his size should not have been able to move so quietly. He sat beside her, close but not quite touching. Close enough that his presence stirred the fire inside her more than the flames before them. "You are adjusting well," he said softly. Elena smiled, though it felt fragile. "Your people have been kind. Kinder than I expected. They respect you," he replied. Because you carry sorrow with dignity. Because you work harder than any here. Because you do not fear the cliffs. She looked at him, surprised. I feared everything when I arrived. Not anymore. The fire crackled between them. Snowflakes melted the moment they landed on Taz's shoulders, hissing softly on his warm skin. Elena wanted to reach out, wanted to know what that warmth felt like beneath her fingertips. May I ask you something? She murmured. Taza nodded. That day at my ranch, the vow you made. She swallowed. I thought you meant to claim me. Force a future I didn't choose. But now I think I misunderstood. He turned fully toward her, and for the first time since she'd known him, emotion cracked through his composed exterior, raw, unguarded. You did not misunderstand the depth of my feeling, he said. Only my intent. She held her breath. When I saw you living alone, surrounded by danger, grief consuming what was left of your spirit, his voice thickened. I wanted to give you a life, not take one from you. A child, a family, a future, these are gifts only given if you want them. Never taken. Elena's throat tightened. And if I choose none of that? Taz's jaw flexed. Then I will protect you anyway. You owe me nothing. Your safety is enough. Her heart trembled. No man had ever spoken to her with such reverence, not even her late husband. Her breath came in small, unsteady pulls as she reached out and placed her hand on Taz's forearm. He froze. Taza, I don't know what my future is. But I know this. I don't want to face it alone. His breath left him in a shudder. Slowly, cautiously, as if afraid she might vanish, he covered her hand with his own, large, warm, trembling despite his strength. Elena, he whispered, voice rough with emotion, you will never be alone again, if you choose to walk with me. She leaned into him, not out of need, but out of want. A powerful, growing want she could no longer deny. His arm slid around her shoulders, drawing her gently against him. For a long time they sat like that, letting the fire warm their faces while the snow wrapped the world in softness.